Yeah, just piggybacking off of that too, as you're applying, I would say, like, I've been applying for ones that are multiple populations because that's I'm most passionate about and what I've found that I'm most passionate about. But on all the applications, I've seen the questions that are like, why are you picking this specific internship? I think every single application has asked me that question. I'm sure in my interview processes, they're going to ask me the exact same thing. So you want to, like, for sure have some kind of motivation for that population and some kind of connection with that, or else it's going to not be as sincere in your answers. So I say, like, if you are like really specific in a population that you want to work in and that's what you're connected to, go for it and don't worry about having it limited, because they're going to ask you this kind of questions and want to see that kind of connection from you.
Okay, for supervisors and directors, what are you looking for in a music therapist during the interview process and on applications?
One of the biggest things that we look for here at A Place to Be is that someone's willing and ready to grow and learn. So we don't want a perfect person. A perfect person doesn't exist, but we don't want someone to come in and know everything and be like, yes, like I am going to go and I'm going to be a music therapist right now. And you know what? I'm pretty much board certified at this point, because we're still learning an internship and you're still absorbing and you're learning. And as an internship director, we want to be able to help you and guide you and give you tools to continue to grow.
All right, this next question is for Dr. Radarzik. What is the biggest advice you can give students as they approach their board exam?
Hello. The biggest advice that I can give is to take the self-assessment exam. There is no better tool to prepare yourself for the exam. And hopefully you have seen that CBMT has just lowered the price of we call it the SAE, the self-assessment exam. So it was $75. It's now $49.95, at least through the end of 2020, and hopefully beyond that as well. So the great thing about the SAE is that you take it on the computer in the same format that you do with the regular board exam. And even better, once you choose your answer, it tells you why that answer was right or wrong. And then let's say it was the right answer, it tells you why it was right. And then the other three choices, it'll tell you exactly why those three were not the correct answer. And so it teaches you how to take the test. People ask me a lot of times, they say, what do I study for the board exam? This is the best way to study, is to take the SAE. There's not one book that you should read to pass the exam. There's not one resource I can give you, because it's a synthesis of everything that you learned in your 4 years of coursework plus your internship. And most every question on the exam is scenario based. So you have a client, they do this, then they do this. What do you do next? A, B, C, or D? And that's not an answer that you're going to find in a book. It's an answer that you come up with based upon the synthesis of all of your experiences, so that you know in the moment as a music therapist, this is the best thing to do right now. So the SAE teaches you how to do that. I can't stress enough how helpful this tool is. So that would be the number one way to prepare, for sure.
Okay, next question. This goes to everyone. For anyone who's completed their internship, what would you say was the hardest part of internship? And then follow-up question, what area do you feel like you grew the most in?
I think for me, the most difficult part about my internship, number one, was the transition from going to a practicum once a week to working 5 days a week with a full caseload. That was really, really difficult when I started. And then on top of that, the hardest part for me was finding a work-life balance, because it's so easy in your internship and when you start as a new professional to just like throw yourself in it like 200%. Because, you know, we love this and this is why we're here. We're music therapists and we're passionate about it. But you can be passionate without giving all of yourself away. And that was the hardest part for me to learn, because I love to give myself away. I think, what was the second part of that question? The area that I grew in the most. I think that the area that I grew in the most, number one, musical skills went up like 110%. I considered myself a good musician before my internship, but when you play for 5 to 7 clients a day, 5 days a week, your musical skills increase drastically in ways you didn't even realize. Like I thought I was proficient, and then I ended my internship and I was like, oh, I'm 100 times better than I was in school. And I've been working for a couple months as a therapist, and I'm 100 times better than I was when I was an intern. Another thing I grew in was the verbal processing skills. So that's something we work on a little bit in school, but until you have to get in there and verbally process with clients, you're not going to truly learn about how to do that.
Does anybody else want to speak to that question? Okay, this next question comes from Kara. How early did everyone start seriously looking at internships?
I started searching for my internships seriously my junior year, and my biggest thing was National Music Therapy Conference my junior year is when I like made it a point to be like, this is when I'm going to start thinking about my future, because some national roster internships applications are due like almost a year in advance. So if you want to get into those big medical internships, their applications are due like July of your junior year. So I would get on thinking about that more seriously when you become a junior.
Okay, this question, let's see, how hard is it to find a job following internship? Does the internship you end up at determine what kind of jobs you will be able to find?
I can talk about that, I guess. So in internship, actually, that was one of my assignments, was to apply to internship, or apply to jobs. So that was part of the time that I was spending at internship. The interviews that I was doing, those last couple months of internship were a part of what I was doing. I would say that I am from Kansas City. I live in Kansas City. So I didn't have a too difficult job finding the information that I needed and finding a job. I finished my internship in December and I started my first job in January. So I think it really depends on where you're willing to work for your first position. I wouldn't say that my first position was like the best in the entire world. I learned a lot from it. So that really depends, and then it also depends on like the connections that you're making during internship and the relationships that you're building with other professionals as you're doing it. Because I know that the position that I have now and then the other people who work with me at this position, we would not have been hired if we didn't know the people who had already held those.
Okay, while we are waiting for other questions, is there anything that anybody on the panel has maybe thought about that they would like to speak to? Yeah, Natalie.
Hey, so another piece of advice that I think is helpful when thinking about what kind of internship to do is really to think about not just what type of population fascinates you, but what internship setting or what population do you think might fit best with your personality? And we've talked a lot about self-care. Self-care is also really affected by the setting and what type of schedule or work expectations the internship will put on you. Let's be real, not every internship is created equal. There are some that are going to work you to death. And, you know, when Alex is saying he got to go home at 5 o'clock, that's not always true. That's beautiful. And I'm so glad that he got to do that. That's amazing. But I've also had students of mine who were at their internship till like 9 p.m. and they were about to die. So I think that if you are somebody who needs some work-life balance structure in your situation, you need to be really upfront about finding out from the current interns at that site. Ask them, hey, what's the real 9 to 5 schedule like? Are you really just working 40 hours a week? Are you working more than that? And don't be afraid to reach out to the people that are interning currently and ask them what their experience is like, and to truly find out, is that something that's going to fit with your personality, your lifestyle, your ability to handle stress. There are some people who thrive on unpredictability. They will get bored easily, so they want an internship where they're doing something different every day. I'll tell you what, do a medical internship, do a hospital internship. There's no predictability. Everything is different every single day. But if you're somebody who's fascinated by Grey's Anatomy and medical shows and you think you want to work in a hospital, but if your routine is not set, you're freaking out, hospital is not for you, because it's completely unpredictable and you're not going to be able to get into a routine and a rhythm. So I think being really honest with yourself when it comes to what you're going to thrive, what setting you're going to thrive in, I think is something that will be beneficial to every student as they're thinking about their setting.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, when you're in your internship, learning how to respectfully say no. So in my internship, I had a pretty good 9 to 5, but I was asked to do extra things all the time. And if you're eager and you're just beginning, you're like, sure. And then all of a sudden you finish your internship a month early. That's what happened to me, because I totally just kept saying yes and didn't know how to say no, and had to learn the hard way that you can say no and you can do it respectfully. And that's what everybody in the professional world has to do.
Okay, this question is for everyone. Have any of the current or previous interns juggled both the internship and a job to make ends meet?
Oh yeah. So I moved to Virginia and I'm from Missouri, and my internship did not have a stipend. So I uprooted my life and moved to a different region, and I was not getting paid to be there, and I didn't have too much help outside of all the money that I saved up during college, which do now. Save money while you can, save every penny, because that helped me so much. Another thing that really helped me was teaching lessons. So what I did on the weekends and some evenings was I taught music lessons, and it was a great way for me to improve my musical skills, but also make some extra money.
Yeah, I also worked during an internship. I lived at home during this time, so I was saving money there. But on the weekends, I would work at Panera, which was a job that I had had all through high school and college. So it was really important to me to still make sure that I was making some money, but also really important to me that I was communicating to Dr. Carroll, my supervisor, but also my job Panera, and just saying, like, these are the times that I can be available to do what you're asking me to do. So if that meant that I was going to tell Panera, like, nope, I'm not going to work on that Sunday from 2 to close or whatever, that is what had to happen. And I know that not everyone has that availability, and not everyone has the bosses who have that forethought to say, like, oh, you're still a student, but that is something that I was able to do there.
Okay, this question is for Jordan. How did you make those connections to be able to teach lessons in a new community?
Yeah, that can be very challenging. The thing that brought me the most success was those online garage sales on Facebook. So when I moved to Middleburg, Virginia, I joined all of those awful garage sales that they sell weird random things. And I said, hey, I am a student that just moved to the area and I'm looking to make a little extra money. I am qualified to teach piano, voice, and guitar lessons. If anyone's interested, please reach out. And the biggest thing with that is it was slow. I've got one family at first, but that's how you do things in a community, very much like networking at a conference. I met one family, they really enjoyed my lessons, so they told their friends. And then those friends told other friends, and then all of a sudden when someone else posts asking if anybody teaches lessons in the area, they're putting my name and I'm getting referrals. So it's all about learning how to network in any community that you join.